Okay, I think I'm live, visible, and audible. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yes. So, welcome once again officially to the episode number 25 of the 26 episodes that we have planned in the first half of this year. It is a Thunder Thursday finance session, of course. As usual, all my presentations always begin with thanking the Lord Almighty, who's given me much more than what I deserve. And when it comes to finance, of course, I have to thank my dad, who has been instrumental in teaching me the clinical part of finance. Whatever it is, I'm knowing it's courtesy majorly him. And this is his death anniversary month. Of course, I celebrate the month or the death anniversary day of my dad, 30th June, which falls on next Thursday, incidentally, the half of the year. I call that I've christened that day as the mini day of education, and you'll be having at least two or three webinars on that day. So the next week Thunder Thursday session will take place one day before on Wednesday to wrap up the series. There will be a finale episode close to 1 hour, and that will start probably around 8 only rather than 8:15, so that we wrap up things by 9:15 max. So Thursday itself will have separate three sessions in morning, afternoon, and evening at least. I'm planning for two or three. Let's hope things get going as I planned. So this is my brief CV. You all are aware of it by now. Let's move ahead and discuss today's topic. So today's topic is behavioral bias or mistakes in wealth creation, which we all do, which is the most common ones. There are a lot of biases, as if we go as per the theory of Charles Munger, a very famous author. We have 25 aspects, but I'll be shortlisting those to those four aspects only. What is in there? Why do we make certain mistakes in wealth creation? It has to be something coming out from our brain itself. So the human nature is to be blamed, and how do we overcome that? Of course, try to limit the session in 20-25 minutes of today. So there are a lot of aspects when we have to make a judgment, when we have to make an investment. We do on hearsay, we invest on the advice of someone, we look out to someone, we look upon someone, we seek our parents, we seek our elders. But yes, things change with time. We have to respect that. If FDs were a good bet 20 years back, they are no longer a good bet in today's time. But our parents might be stuck with that philosophy. Nahi beta, FD is still the best. So you have to overcome those biases. Of course, I'll be discussing those in the form of a short story today. Let's begin. I'm giving you the example of IT engineer, software engineer who's working in Hyderabad, Raghu. He's a 30-year-old software engineer who's worked in IT firm in Hyderabad, Telangana. So he moved back to Amritsar, his hometown, to be with his parents after the COVID-19 outbreak. So he worked from home. Most of the IT companies allowed that. So work from home flexibility allowed Raghu to continue working with the IT firm, which he was. And of course, the company saved on certain things, and he still, you can say, was getting the regular salary out of it. So yes, he was aware of the financial stress that COVID-19 caused his friends, family, and society in general. Many companies gave a good layoff to many of the employees. Many businesses suffered. Some of them prospered also, but majority on the downside. At least for the first 4 to 5 months, there was a downside, primarily major. Exceptions aside, those who flourished. So most of the time, if Raghu is earning, he's 30-year-old, unmarried. If he's on the right track, he's got a decent job, an apartment in Hyderabad. He pays his loan of the apartment regularly from his salary income. So he feels even if not 60, he might retire at the age of 55. So at least 25 years of working life is ahead of him. But for the financial advice, he relies largely on his parents, elders, or peers. And again, I'm not saying don't listen to your parents. That is absolutely right. In my previous financial investment journey sessions that I've taken up previous year in the month of June and July, in four parts financial investment journey, I've explained those aspects, which all things we need to learn from our parents and which all things we do not need to learn from our parents. Our parents are not always 100% right, especially when it comes to financial matters. We have to respect certain things that our parents might be good in giving very good life advice, career advice, but financial wise, maybe things are changing and maybe they are not in sync with the company. So, what is important is for all of us to have that amount of financial literacy with us. Maybe we don't do it ourselves, maybe we delegate to our advisor, but at least we should be aware of what is happening with our money. That is where the financial literacy comes in for, and that is what I am doing since the past almost now 6+ years, or close to 6 years, sorry. So ever since we started in August 2016, the online free education concept, the Dentab group. So close to 6 years, this concept is being shared. I'm doing it as a payback to the society. So I'm trying to inculcate an aspect of financial awareness, financial literacy in all the peers and colleagues. How many of you pick it up? It's your wish. It's your wish and will. I cannot force upon anyone to do the needful. But then certain things need to be learned in sync with the changing times. We need to respect certain things as they have become outdated. If you are respecting technology, if you are not having those CRT monitors, you're not having big television sets, not your Nokia 3310, did you listen to your parents? Your parents might be watching still or having still one or two of those three or four things which are outdated, but you change yourself in sync with the changing times. You have sleek LCDs, LEDs, and instead of your CRT monitors, again LED monitors. Of course, the sleekest and the thinnest smartphones, iPhones, or whatever. You're not using Nokia 3310 or Nokia 2100. So if you have changed those things in changing times, why don't you change yourself in change of financial times? If your parents are left behind in terms of technology, they might be left behind in terms of finances as well. I'm not criticizing parents' advice as overall, but I'm just saying we need to make ourselves adept in certain matters so that we need to learn those things. So, like many of us, many of you, Raghu too is susceptible to behavioral bias that will prevent him from making the right decision, because his simple answer is, I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the experience, so better to rely on someone who has done it in a better way. Yes, your parents have done it in a better way, but they did it 20, 30 years back. This is whatever your age is, you have to respect that part. So again, peers saying parents are the role models, role examples in front of anyone, like Raghu itself. So these will, you can say, be a setting example for them that yes, they can uh, give a roadmap that where we have been going. But then relying too much could mean investing more than what is needed in tax saving schemes, even though they may not suit our financial. For a young, unmarried, or a guy who has less responsibilities, less liabilities, the best thing is you can do is you can take more risks. Of course, the risks equate to money as well. A calculated risk does not always mean that you will always end up losing money. It means a gain as well. So all these biases could impart a false sense of financial security. I relied on a very literate guy, very experienced guy in my family who will think best for me. Agreed, but you have to overcome those biases. You may have certain things which may not be totally rational, especially for your retirement planning aspects. So let's examine these some of these behavioral aspects and explore that how we can address them after acknowledging the existence of such bias in us. Because most of our investment decisions are biased, and we don't rely on a few things in our life, and that is where it makes a difference. Number one is the present bias. The present bias is the tendency to favor immediate returns instead of future rewards or returns. So that is what is the instant gratification for. So Raghu may prefer an instrument that gives good returns in the near future, rather than investing in anything for the retirement, like an NPS, like an equity thing, because retirement seems so far away. 25 saal dur hai, 30 saal dur hai. Let's not think so much ahead. But we have to respect that the power of compounding acts only when you give your money a longer time. So present bias is when people focus too much on short-term returns than long-term. उनको होता मेरा पैसा मेरे पास मेरे हाथ में रहे, मेरे नजरों के सामने रहे, मार्केट में गया तो मेरे हाथ से गया. Again, I'm not talking of the stocks here. I'm talking about the equity mutual funds only in terms of reserves comparison of short-term return. So this is the reason we lose. See what disadvantages this present bias has. Number one is you are investing your money for short-term. Means you're losing out on the long-term capacity of that money for 3 years minimum. Then you are, you can say, losing out on the advantageous position that you can have by growing that money. And number three, you are becoming myopic in your approach when you have that bias. So you need to understand the longer time you give your money to grow, the longer it will create a benefit for you. Then the second is the inertia aspect. Like all of us, as we all do, whenever we come across a new thing in the month of June, July, August, अगले साल से करें. In the month of November and December, 1st January से मैं पक्का जिम जाऊंगा to get slim and trim, to maybe lose out excess of fat. And that 1st January never comes. Or maybe if it comes, it comes for just for 2-3 days. And then we immediately lose upon the advantage. So a simple definition of inertia effect is the procrastination thing. So postponing your retirement means you're losing out on the golden time. So again, that bias of 25 years before the investment, it seems a long way off. So this is a very, very, very common bias. And some of us are still aware of the power of compounding, but we keep postponing certain decisions because the process requires too much of effort. And that is where it requires कौन सीखे कौन करे यार तुम बता दो मेरे को 4 म्यूचुअल फंड में से इन्वेस्ट कर लूं. And then it becomes a hearsay investment. पिछली बार तुमने बताए थे बहुत अच्छे निकले थे और मेरे को 4 अच्छे बताओ funds. And this is the way investments are done majority households. People don't want to take the long hard step. कभी कभी YouTube वीडियो आता है ना तो बोलते हाय 35 मिनट का वीडियो 40 मिनट का वीडियो कौन देखेगा. The audience attention time span is actually decreasing. 5 मिनट 10 मिनट भी बहुत ज्यादा लगते हैं. An average view time on a YouTube channel, anyone, the industry accepted fact is close to 7 to 8 minutes. That's it. 7 to 8 minutes on an average. Even my YouTube channel has the same average, close to that. So some of the industry averages put 5 to 6 minutes as the sweet spot. They say 5 to 6 minutes is a very good time for attention grabbing. But this is the reason certain things do take effect. So different types of investment instruments are there. Of course, the government schemes, term deposit stocks, gold, mutual funds, bonds and debentures. So we all know. So the priority is sometimes to shift to a safer haven, because just because our parents have been investing, just because our peers have been investing in them. So this is the you can say the benefit of that part. But then the third benefit is the loss aversion bias. The third bias is the loss aversion bias. Sometimes we need to correct our course if the investments are not right. If we have done something wrong, we live in that hope कि नहीं ये मेरा ठीक हो जाएगा कभी ना कभी, it will be okay. But then sometimes those things do not make any, you can say, effect in that part. So we carry on with our debt investments with a silver lining in our mind, with a hope in our mind that maybe one day good investments, bad investments will turn to good investments. So we don't realize that sometimes some investments are really bad. अब सबके सब म्यूचुअल फंड अच्छे होते तो गिनती के 40 म्यूचुअल फंड होते 40 कंपनियों के पास. But no, there are close to 1,500 mutual funds with about 1,500 schemes with about 3,000 or 4,000 funds in 40 AMCs. So हर म्यूचुअल फंड के पास मोटा मोटा बोले तो 8-9 एवरेज कम से कम फंड्स हैं. तो आगे उनके वेरिएंट्स भी बहुत सारे होते हैं. So that is the reason audience gets confused. It is all about making yourself a little better than the other competitor in the market. Again, we also avoid shifting because it may imply that we were not right. It sends a wrong message to our brain that जो investment हमने चुनी थी वो गलत थी. तो मैं गलत कैसे मान लूं अपने आप को? That is the approach sometimes that leads to loss aversion bias. Sometimes it is better to bear, you can say, a pain from a gain or low gain than the player from loss. I'm saying the different words from what you are seeing in this in the slide. So the pain from loss is something more than the player from gain. So you have to understand what the loss aversion mindset. This mindset is what prevents us from learning from our mistakes. I never call it is a very common phenomenon. I also never call it that we either succeed or we either learn. There is nothing called as a failure in our life, only if we want to learn from it. There is nothing called as a failure, because everything done for the first time will land up in not so successful things. Yes, occasionally people may be lucky, but it's not exactly the true scenario for everyone. So if we want to, you can say, write off our losses, make a course correction, sometimes this mindset needs to be over. Then the fourth bias and the last bias for today is the bandwagon. We all tend to get influenced by whatever elders tell us, of course, whatever colleagues and peers are doing. Sometimes in a mutual fund workshop, when I'm doing for the full day, people listen to me, but they come to me in the tea break, lunch break. Of course, I'm talking about pre-COVID times. They come to me, sir, आपने कौन से fund में किया? आप बता दो. So there are different stages of life. You have to think about how many years you have. Is your age similar to my age? Is your kid's age similar to mine? Is your responsibility similar to mine? Is your liability similar to mine? Is your asset list similar to mine? So why are you making a comparison of the same mutual funds for you? How many years you have and how many years I have to retirement will be totally different. So close to, again, every investment in India begins on 15th of April or 15th of March, sorry, which is usually the fag end of the financial year. 350 days of the year have already passed, 15 days out of 365 remain, and we start searching or we start getting a call from our advisor, from our CA, आपने PPF में डाला कि नहीं, आपने NPS में डाला कि नहीं, डाल दो. This is the way investments are done in hearsay, and that is what we need to learn. And yes, people don't realize this thing, that 25, 30 years, for example, in this case, I've given Raghu's example, 25, 30 years of employment, and you may get a strong incentive to save, but the tax planning may not remain the same. The tax slabs may be different. The benefits may be different. The interest rates may be different. So the only thing is the bandwagon effect is because of the FOMO approach, the fear of missing out. Of course, we believe that others are making use of it. So let's me also do what they are doing. So that is where we fall into the trap of lesser risky investments, and hence the results. So a classical example of a $1,000 rupee note or a rupee or a dollar note, you can say a mental accounting aspect. Literally, it is a piece of paper. Socially, it is $1,000 of fungible value. Mentally, those are 200 के shoes, 100 का खाना, 700 का customer portrait of my dog. So this is just an example of what exactly is the mental accounting aspects for literal, social, and mental. So we need to understand this part very, very clear. So let's see how to overcome these behavioral biases. So let us, number one is always do a financial workout. You may not be doing your body workout every day, every month, every week, but you need to do at least once a year a financial workout. Of course, income tax department also makes you do it if you file your returns on time. Then life events means change of strategy. As I say, for a 28, 29-year-old, the immediate goals sometimes are opening up a clinic, getting married. Then probably if he's married, the next imminent goals are maybe expanding a clinic, bringing the first child into the family. Then maybe marriage of any younger sibling, daughter, or you can say sister or a brother in the family. Then maybe bringing a second child into the family. Then maybe going further scalability into your practice. So the life goals will keep on changing. For example, change in personal circumstances, marital status, birth of a child, new job, health status, and of course, external environment like investment returns, Russia-Ukraine war in today's scenario, the government regulations, the tax rules, all will impact your tax cash flow. So, जब change होता है तो अपने आप को adapt करना चाहिए. Human nature, human body is known for adaptation. If we don't do that, we are not doing a thing. And there has to be a difference between a fact and a belief. We sometimes do not give any reasoning or logic. We just rely on the belief system only that is in our mind. It is always better to rely on the fact system. Then number 3, don't be emotionally attached. I always call in financial matters, there should be no emotions at all. I give the example of my wife sometimes. She had one salary account when she started her job in her career. When she married me, before that, she was working in my town. So she was actually, you can say, having one account in HDFC Bank. So now she's left the job almost 3 years and 3 months ago. And I always tell her, why are you keeping with this bank account? नहीं, ये मेरा first bank account था जिसने मुझे first salary दी थी. तुमने जब salary दी थी इस bank account को, तुम्हें job को छोड़े को 3 साल plus हो चुके हैं. Why are you sticking with the 2.75% bank account? उसमें पैसे रखती हो 3, 4, 5 लाख, वाई? इट इज अ वेस्ट ऑफ टाइम, रादर देन दैट कीप इट इन हाई अर्निंग सेविंग बैंक अकाउंट। नहीं, पैसा मुझे चाहिए होता है, तो मैं कहता तो हाई अर्निंग सेविंग बैंक अकाउंट कौन सा करेगा तुम्हारा? नहीं, वो प्राइवेट बैंक का पता नहीं है। दिस इज अ थिंग theory which keeps on coming up in my family also sometime when I try to explain them a few things. So yes, the bias is still there. नहीं, मम्मी ने बोला था ऐसे ऐसे प्राइवेट बैंक सेफ है, मैं क्या HDFC कौन सा सरकारी है? नहीं नहीं नहीं, वो फिर भी सेफ है, वो सबसे बड़ा है। Again, it took me a lot of time to make her understand the importance of a high earning saving bank account. Of course, she is now uh, graduated to that. But yes, when it comes to money, people always are emotionally attached. If I was there, this was my first salary account, I would have been dealing with nationalized banks. I really hate nationalized banks, except SBI. I don't think any worth in any of the nationalized banks in that regard. Only SBI is some worthiness because of the multiple benefits it accords other than the banking. Otherwise, I don't do business with nationalized banks. They are lethargic, lousy people. No disrespect, but that is the way our banking system has been in the recent past, at least in the nationalized banks. So I don't deal with them. At least private banks are more adept, more qualified in that sense, and they are also regulated by RBI. So there is no reason to be emotionally saying, or again, this is one bias which has been gifted to us by our parents. सरकारी बैंक है तो सेफ है, बाकी सब सरकारी हॉस्पिटल है तो बुरा है, सरकारी ट्रांसपोर्ट है तो बुरा है, लेकिन सरकारी बैंक है तो सेफ है। सरकारी नौकरी है तो बहुत अच्छी है फॉर अ प्रोस्पेक्टिव मैच, लेकिन और कुछ सरकारी है तो दैट इज बैड। So you have to learn to go off certain investments that are loss making and that don't make sense. So don't be emotionally attached to your money. In financial, you need a logical and a reasoning brain rather than a irrational and a emotional. So the sooner you correct, the better it is for you. Then be aware and conscious of your financial decisions. Ask yourself, why are you investing this amount? What is it for? How does it align with your goals and circumstances? आपका गोल क्या है? किस चीज के लिए आपने इस म्यूचुअल फंड में इन्वेस्ट किया, इस पीपीएफ में इन्वेस्ट किया? व्हाट इज योर गोल? दिस इज माय मनी फॉर रिटायरमेंट, दिस इज माय मनी फॉर माय चाइल्ड हायर एजुकेशन, दिस इज माय मनी फॉर माय क्लिनिक एक्सपेंशन टू बी प्लान्ड इन 5 years 6 years. दिस इज द वे यू प्लान योर गोल्स. अगर गोल्स ही नहीं है, फिर तो ब्लाइंड इन्वेस्टमेंट करे जाओ, फिर आप गलत टाइम पे विड्रॉ भी करोगे. दैट इज वेयर वी नीड टू लर्न करोगे. Financial literacy does not mean doing everything yourself. It means at least keeping a check, keeping a guard on someone who is doing it better than us. Maybe, if you want to delegate. Don't invest because someone else did it. Learn to understand why. बहुत लोग वो आजकल सब क्रिप्टो में कर रहे हैं, तो मैं भी क्रिप्टो में करता हूँ, बिकॉज इट इज दी इन थिंग. और इंस्टाग्राम ने, फेसबुक ने, सोशल मीडिया ने इन थिंग को ज्यादा प्रायोरिटाइज कर दिया. दैट इज वेयर वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड. Then the last is overcoming the bandwagon effect. So be aware of your biases. They can be traps. It is good to avoid. So this is the summary of the behavioral biases. Overconfidence, the effect is trusting the wrong person. Loss aversion, holding on to toxic assets in life. And not only assets, belief mindset also. Regret avoidance, not admitting your mistakes earlier. Living in the false world. मैं गलत कैसे हो सकता हूँ, मैं गलती कैसे मान. Then herding and social influence, buying the last best thing or the next big thing, like the crypto example I gave. Then the mental accounting, opting for a freaky advice from someone like me. So everything comes at a cost. If I'm giving a few things in free, does not mean I will give everything in free. There has to be a respect for that. People try to make a message रात के 2 बजे मैसेज करेंगे. Of course, I see it in the morning only. My net is off in the night. इस म्यूचुअल फंड में मैं कितना डालूं, ये कितना डालूं? How can you even ask such questions openly? Just try to understand. I don't know your situation. I don't know your family size. I don't know your liabilities and responsibilities. How can I even advise you in that regard? If you want to learn from me, do a FPA with me. Full financial portfolio analysis करो, मैं आपको सब कुछ दूंगा करके. But to do it like an open bet, मैं इसमें इन्वेस्ट कर दूं, मैं उसमें इन्वेस्ट कर दूं, is like asking गाय को कि दूध दोगी कि नहीं तुम. गाय तो कहेगी निकालना तो आपको खुद को पड़ेगा. It's like that. So the carry on gyan is, of course, many of you must have read the book Psychology of Money by Benjamin Graham. So there is another book, The Psychology of Human Misjudgment by Charlie Munger. So for all of you, so when it comes to understanding why we behave the way we do, this book is literally a magnum opus, a blockbuster, I would say. So it describes the various patterns of irrational behavior namely 25 patterns that lead us to commit repeated mistakes. All of those judgments, misjudgments that impact decision making across life stages. Of course, we all fall prey to these. Many of us fall prey and we make wrong investments. And mostly irrationality can lead to hefty financial losses. So, as a benefit, I will share the same tomorrow in my WhatsApp community, the same book. Of course, it is a short book and you may take an advantage from it. So Benjamin Graham also rightly said the investor's chief problem and even his worst enemy is likely to be himself. That is what we all need to understand. Often investors will have a lot of emotions during their journey. There will be plus and minus points, but that is part of life. If you riding on those emotions make flawed decisions, it is your fault. So those behavioral traits are more important in current market where investors are largely skeptical. Of course, many are making rash decisions. There is no magical cure for such things. Of course, the way forward is to mitigate the effects and you can say minimize the damages. If you identify your behavioral traits earlier, it is best suited to you where you can overcome these biases and be a happy investor. So the sources of bias can be multiple: data, reference material, contextual information, organization factors, education, training, personal factors, and a lot of things we come and interact. Of course, the human and cognitive factors in the brain itself, when whom we come in contact with. So the moral of the whole story is it is important to understand how these biases can influence your investment decision making, because all of this can help you as investor avoid your mistakes. Focus on being objective, adopt a very practical approach supported by facts, both recent and historic, and build a framework that works with your financial goals. The first thing is always to have a financial goal clear with you. Then follow it up with a rule-based analysis of your numbers. Then maybe understand the market dynamics, how things work. All of this can strengthen your investment decision, and all of this will come if you are financially fit, because this will all help you in making or developing your abilities and help you in your wealth creation journey. So what I can say is happy investing to all of you. So I hope this session has inculcated some insight into the human mindset, which is responsible largely for bad decisions, especially in financial matters that we do. So this is the moral of the whole story. There are a lot of things in our brain. If we try to understand it, if we try to deal with it, we'll know where the fault lies. Thank you so much for a patient hearing. And this is my YouTube channel. I keep on posting videos regularly. As on 10 June, 485 plus videos are already there. These by 30th June, these videos will touch 500 plus, of course. So if you have not yet subscribed, do subscribe to my channel. So this is my WhatsApp community. Soon it will be changed. After 1st of July, it will be changed to 512 format. The WhatsApp has upgraded system. So if any one of you wants to be added in there, do let me know. I'll add you. So this is my social media presence by my name only, Dr. Bhavdeep. Like my YouTube channel, it also is by Dr. Bhavdeep. So Instagram, Clubhouse, Facebook, except the page which is by Dr. Bhavdeep Ahuja. Since Facebook has my profile as Dr. Bhavdeep, can't be seen. So do send me a feedback on my cell, on my number, on my page, on my YouTube channel, wherever you watch it. Book is and book bad, both will be welcoming you. Thank you so much, and I stop myself for any questions or acknowledging the visitors on my page where this session is happening. Okay. Hello, Dr. Chinmoy. Hello, Dr. Shrikant Rao. Hello, Dr. Vrinda. Hello, Dr. Ramchandar. Hello, Dr. Sonia. Good evening. Hello, Dr. Rajendra Desai. Good evening. Hello, Dr. Ajay Gupta. Hello, Dr. Lalit Goyal. So, any questions? I'm here for 2 minutes, guys. So, before I leave, any questions, I'll be very happy to answer. But I'm surely, as I informed at the start, the next Thunder Thursday takes place on Wednesday. It'll be the wrap-up session. It'll be a 1 hour long session, the grand finale. It'll start most likely by 8 only, 8 to 9, 9:15. We'll be wrapping it up. And as I have detailed yesterday also, the next practice management session also takes place, the Miraculous Monday, on Terrific Tuesday. So next week's both sessions are grand finales. Monday there is a celebration in my family, so I won't be taking any session. The Monday session is postponed to Tuesday, and the Thursday session is preponed to Wednesday. But yes, Thursday being the mini day of education, courtesy my dad's death anniversary, It will be a day which will have separate financial webinars on the topics my dad used to love, used to have a fondness for. I'll be taking those topics as a webinar in the morning and evening, or in the morning, afternoon, and evening. So stay tuned. I'll be sharing the brochures with you in the group, in the WhatsApp community, wherever you are. So I hope uh, today's session was of some value addition to all of you. Thank you so much and have a great weekend ahead. Bye bye. Take care and happy investing to all.